Jake Harrison looked out at the endless field of floating rocks ahead of his small ship. Each asteroid was different. Some were as big as city blocks. Others were no bigger than cars. They all spun slowly in the cold darkness of space, millions of miles from any sun. His ship was called the Defiant Dawn. It was not a big ship, it was not a warship. It was made for looking around and finding things. Jake had been flying it alone for 3 weeks now, checking this part of space for the Earth colonial fleet. Jake was 34 years old. He had short brown hair and tired eyes. He had been flying in space for 15 years. Before that, he worked in the asteroid mines near Mars. He knew rocks in space better than most people. He knew how they moved and how they broke apart. The radio in his ship made a soft beeping sound. Jake pressed a button on his control panel. "Harrison here," he said. "Jake, this is Captain Knox back at Command Station 7, came a woman's voice, through the speaker. "How are things out there?" "Quiet so far," Jake said, looking at his scanner screen. "Just me and a million rocks. No sign of any alien ships." "Good. Keep your eyes open. We got reports that Zephyrian raiders might be in that area." Jake's hands tightened on his ship's controls. The Zephyrians were bad news. They looked like giant bugs that walked on 2 legs. They had been attacking human colonies for months. They took prisoners and did terrible things to them in their labs. "Copy that, Knox. I'll be careful." Jake turned off the radio and flew his ship deeper into the asteroid field. His scanner swept back and forth, looking for anything that did not belong. The green lines on his screen showed only rocks and empty space. He had been flying for 2 more hours when something caught his eye. Far ahead, past a cluster of big asteroids, he saw a faint light. It was not moving like a star. It was blinking, on and off. Jake pushed his engines harder and flew toward the light. As he got closer, he could see it was a ship. A big ship, much bigger than his own. "That's a civilian transport," he said to himself, reading the numbers on his scanner. "What's it doing way out here?" Jake flew closer and turned on his radio to the emergency frequency. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander Harrison of the Earth Colonial Fleet. Do you need help?" A voice came back right away. It was an old man, and he sounded scared. "Thank God. Yes, we need help. This is Captain Collins of the merchant ship New Dawn. Our engines are dead. We can't move. We have 53 people on board, including children." Jake's heart sank. A broken ship full of families, stuck in the middle of nowhere. This was very bad. "Collins, what are you doing in this asteroid field? This area is dangerous. We were running from the Zephyrian attacks on Proxima Colony. We thought this route would be safer. Then our engines broke down 3 hours ago." Jake looked at his fuel gauge and his scanner. He could tow the big ship, but it would take a long time. Too long. If Zephyrian raiders were really in this area, they would find the helpless transport soon. "Collins, I'm going to help you fix your engines. Give me a few minutes to get closer." Jake was about to fly toward the transport when every alarm in his ship started screaming at once. His scanner lit up like a Christmas tree. Red dots appeared all around him, lots of red dots. "What the hell?" Jake said, staring at his screen. The red dots were ships. Enemy ships. They were coming out from behind the asteroids where they had been hiding. Jake counted them quickly. 20, 30, 50. The numbers kept growing. 100 alien ships surrounded him and the helpless transport. Jake's radio crackled with a new voice. Captain Knox from the command station. "Harrison, we're reading massive enemy contacts in your area. You have 100 Zephyrian fighters closing on your position." Jake's mouth went dry. 100 enemy ships. His little reconnaissance ship had 2 small guns and a few missiles. Against 100 alien fighters, he had no chance at all. "Knox, they've got a civilian transport trapped here. 53 people, including kids. Jake, you can't fight that many ships. Get out of there now, that's an order." Jake looked at his scanner again. The alien ships were moving into attack formation. They were not rushing in. They were taking their time. They knew he could not escape. Then Jake looked at the transport ship floating helplessly in space. 53 innocent people, families who had already lost their homes to the alien attacks. If he ran away now, those people would be captured. The Zephyrians would take them to their lab ships. No one ever came back from the lab ships. Jake thought about his wife Lisa back on Luna Colony. He thought about the letter he had written to her before this mission. He had told her he might not come back. Space was dangerous, but he had also promised to always do what was right. "Knox, tell Lisa I love her," Jake said into his radio. "Jake, don't do anything stupid. You can't save them if you're dead." "I'm not running away," Jake said. "These people are counting on me." Jake turned off his radio so he would not have to listen to Knox yelling at him. He looked at his weapons controls: 2 pulse cannons, 12 small missiles, against 100 alien fighters. The alien ships were getting closer now. Jake could see them on his screen moving in perfect formation. The Zephyrians were smart. They were good fighters. They had better weapons and better armor than his little ship. But Jake had something they did not have. He had 15 years of flying in asteroid fields. He had worked in the mines. He knew how rocks moved in space. He knew how they broke apart when you hit them just right. Jake looked at the asteroids around him. Big ones, small ones, all floating and spinning in the darkness. An idea started to form in his mind. It was crazy. It was dangerous, but it might work. The alien ships were only a few miles away now. Jake could see their green weapons charging up. In a few seconds, they would start shooting. Jake smiled for the first time in hours. "Okay, bug faces," he said to himself. "Let's see what happens when you mess with a human who knows rocks." He pushed his ship's engines to full power and flew straight toward the biggest asteroid he could see. The alien ships followed him, thinking he was trying to run away. Jake's fingers moved over his weapon controls. He was not aiming at the alien ships. He was aiming at the asteroids around them. "Come on, you ugly bugs," Jake said. "Let's play some pool." Jake Harrison fired his first shot at a large asteroid spinning slowly to his left. The bright blue energy beam hit the rock dead center. Pieces of stone and metal flew in all directions. But Jake was not trying to destroy the asteroid. He was trying to make it move. The big rock started tumbling faster, pushed by the force of the explosion. Jake watched his scanner carefully. The rock was now moving exactly where he wanted it to go. 20 alien ships were flying straight toward him, in a tight group. Their green weapons were charging up, ready to fire. Jake could see their bug-like faces through their ship windows. They had large black eyes and sharp teeth. They thought they had won already. Jake remembered his old training instructor back on Earth. Master Chief Ryan Blake was the toughest man Jake had ever met. Blake had trained thousands of space pilots. He always said the same thing to his students. "Listen up, rookies," Blake would shout. "Humans don't fight like other animals. When a rabbit sees a wolf, it runs. When a deer sees a hunter, it hides. But when a human sees danger, we get mad. We fight back. And when we can't win with strength, we use our brains." Jake had learned more than just flying from Blake. He had learned that humans were different from every other creature in space. Other species would give up when the odds were bad. Humans got more dangerous. The alien ships were getting closer. Jake could see their formation clearly now. They flew in perfect straight lines, just like they had been taught. The Zephyrians were proud of their military training. Every ship stayed exactly where it was supposed to be. That was going to be their first mistake. Jake fired his second shot at another asteroid. This one was smaller and closer to the alien formation. The rock exploded into dozens of chunks. Each piece flew off in a different direction. The lead alien ship had to swerve to avoid a big piece of rock. When it moved, the ship behind it had to move too. Then the next ship moved. In seconds, their perfect formation was broken. Jake smiled. He had been an asteroid miner for 10 years before joining the military. He knew exactly how rocks behaved when they broke apart. He knew which way the pieces would fly. He knew how fast they would move. The aliens did not know these things, They had learned to fight in open space where there was nothing but emptiness between ships. They had never fought in an asteroid field before. Jake's ship flew between 2 large rocks, using them as cover. His scanner showed him everything that was happening around him. More alien ships were coming from behind the asteroids. They were trying to surround him completely. Defiant dawn to new dawn, Jake said into his radio, calling the civilian transport. This is Collins, the old captain answered quickly. Collins, I need you to move your ship closer to that big asteroid on your right. The one that looks like a potato. Commander, we can't move. Our engines are still broken. Use your maneuvering thrusters, small pushes, just get behind that rock. But why? Because in about 2 minutes, this whole area is going to be very dangerous. Jake cut the radio connection and focused on his next targets. He had fired at 2 asteroids so far. Now he needed to hit 6 more. Each shot had to be perfect. Each rock had to move in exactly the right direction. The alien ships were spreading out now, trying to attack him from all sides. Jake counted 40 ships in the first wave. 60 more were hanging back, waiting for orders from their leader. Jake found the alien commander's ship on his scanner. It was bigger than the others and had more weapons. The commander was staying safe behind his other ships, letting them do the fighting. That was their second mistake. Jake had studied alien battle tactics at the Fleet Academy. The Zephyrians always fought the same way. The leader stayed in the back and gave orders. The other ships obeyed without thinking. They never changed their plans once a battle started. Humans were different. Human soldiers were taught to think for themselves. If a plan was not working, they would try something new. If their leader was killed, they would keep fighting. Each human was like a separate brain, all working together. The Zephyrians were more like a single brain controlling many bodies. If you confused the brain, all the bodies would get confused too. Jake fired his third shot at an asteroid that was spinning end over end. The rock was as big as a house and covered with sharp metal pieces. When Jake's energy beam hit it, the asteroid split into 2 large chunks. Both pieces flew toward the alien formation like giant hammers. The alien ships had to break formation again to avoid the flying rocks. But now they were flying right into the path of the debris from Jake's first 2 shots. One alien ship got hit by a chunk of rock the size of a car. The metal piece punched right through the ship's hull. Air and sparks flew out of the hole. The ship spun out of control and crashed into another asteroid. 2 more alien ships collided with each other, trying to avoid the flying debris. Their weapons exploded when they hit, creating a bright flash that lit up the whole asteroid field. Jake was already moving to his next position. His ship was small and fast. He could fly between the asteroids like a bird flying between trees. The alien ships were bigger and harder to control. They had to fly more carefully. That was their third mistake. Jake fired his 4th shot at a cluster of small asteroids. The rocks were all close together, held in place by their own weak gravity. When Jake's weapon hit them, they all flew apart, at once like a bomb going off. Hundreds of small rocks scattered in every direction. The alien ships found themselves flying through a cloud of space debris. Their shields lit up as rocks bounced off their hulls. Some ships got hit so many times their shields failed. Jake watched his scanner as more red dots disappeared. 8 alien ships were now out of the fight. Some were destroyed. Others were too damaged to keep fighting. But there were still over 90 ships left. Jake's radio came to life. It was Captain Knox from the command station. Jake, what are you doing out there? Our sensors show massive explosions. I'm making the odds a little more fair, Jake answered. You can't fight 100 ships by yourself. I'm not fighting them, Jake said, firing his 5th shot at another asteroid. I'm letting them fight the rocks. The asteroid Jake hit was the biggest one yet. It was almost a mile wide and shaped like a long cylinder. When his energy beam struck it near one end, the whole rock started to spin like a giant club. The spinning asteroid was now moving straight toward the main group of alien ships. They would have to scatter in all directions to avoid it. That was exactly what Jake wanted them to do. Jake had been thinking 3 moves ahead, just like playing chess. Every shot he fired was part of a bigger plan. He was not just making rocks fly around randomly. He was herding the alien ships into a trap. The trap was about to close. The giant spinning asteroid crashed into the alien formation like a bowling ball hitting pins. 20 Zephyrian ships scattered in all directions, their perfect attack pattern completely broken. Some flew up, some flew down, some flew left and right. None of them were where they were supposed to be anymore. Jake had been counting on this. He knew exactly where each group of alien ships would go when they scattered. He had been moving asteroids into those exact spots for the last 5 minutes. The first group of alien ships flew upward to avoid the spinning rock. They found themselves flying straight into a cloud of small debris that Jake had created earlier. Sharp pieces of metal and stone hit their ships like bullets. 3 ships lost their shields. 1 ship's engine exploded. The second group flew to the left. They crashed right into the 2 big chunks of asteroid that Jake had split apart with his third shot. The rocks were moving fast, spinning end over end. 2 alien ships tried to dodge but moved too late. The asteroid smashed into them and crushed, their hulls like tin cans. The third group flew to the right thinking they were safe, but Jake had been waiting for them. He fired his 6th shot at a medium-sized asteroid that was floating right in their path. The rock exploded just as the alien ships reached it. Metal and stone flew everywhere. 4 more ships were hit by the flying debris. In less than 30 seconds, Jake had taken out 15 more alien ships. The enemy formation was in complete chaos. Ships were flying in all directions, trying to avoid the rocks and debris that filled the space around them. But the alien commander was getting angry. His name was War Prime Kuzak 9, and he had never lost a battle before. He started screaming orders in his clicking alien language. Jake could hear the angry sounds coming through his radio. The alien commander ordered his remaining ships to spread out even more. He thought this would make them harder to hit with flying rocks. He was wrong. Jake smiled as he watched the alien ships spread out across the asteroid field. Now they were exactly where he wanted them. Jake had not been firing at asteroids randomly. Every shot had been planned. He had been using his ship's computer to calculate exactly where each piece of debris would go. Now all those pieces were moving through space in a deadly pattern. It was like a giant machine made of rocks and metal, all moving at the same time. And Jake was the one controlling it. The alien ships were now flying through this machine. They could not see the pattern because they were inside it, but Jake could see everything from his position near the edge of the asteroid field. A big chunk of rock that Jake had knocked loose 5 minutes ago was now floating toward a group of 6 alien ships. They saw it coming and moved to avoid it. But when they moved, they flew right into the path of smaller debris that was coming from a different direction. 2 ships collided with each other trying to dodge the smaller rocks. A third ship got hit by a piece of metal that tore off its weapon systems. The other 3 ships managed to avoid the debris, but now they were separated from the rest of their group. Jake was ready for them. He fired his 7th shot at an asteroid that was floating above the 3 isolated ships. The rock broke apart and rained down on them like hail. All 3 ships were damaged by the falling stones. War Prime Kuzak 9 was getting desperate. He had started the battle with 100 ships. Now he had less than 70 left, and the number was dropping fast. His perfect ambush had turned into a nightmare. The alien commander decided to change tactics. Instead of trying to maintain formation, he ordered all his remaining ships to attack Jake directly. If they could destroy the human's ship, the flying rocks would not matter anymore. 50 alien ships turned toward Jake's position and fired their weapons all at once. Green energy beams filled the space around Jake's ship. He had to move fast to avoid getting hit. Jake pushed his engines to full power and dove toward a cluster of asteroids. The alien weapons hit the rocks behind him, sending up showers of sparks and debris. Jake flew between 2 large asteroids and came out on the other side, but the aliens were following him. They were flying in a long line, like a snake chasing its prey. Jake looked at his scanner and grinned. The aliens had made another mistake. By flying in a line, all the alien ships were now moving in the same direction. Jake had been waiting for this moment. Jake fired his 8th shot at the largest asteroid in the field. It was huge, bigger than a city block, and it was floating right above the path the alien ships were taking. Jake's energy beam hit the asteroid at exactly the right spot. The giant rock did not explode. Instead, it started to crack. A long split appeared down the middle of the asteroid, like someone had drawn a line with a pencil. The crack got bigger and bigger. Then the asteroid broke in half. Each half was still enormous, and both pieces started falling toward the line of alien ships below. The aliens saw the falling rocks and tried to change direction, but they were moving too fast. The first piece of the broken asteroid hit the front of the alien line. 5 ships were crushed instantly. The second piece hit the middle of the line. 6 more ships were destroyed. But that was not the worst part. When the asteroid pieces hit the alien ships, they also hit other asteroids that were floating nearby. Those asteroids started moving too, crashing into more rocks and creating even more flying debris. Jake had started a chain reaction. Each collision caused more collisions. Rocks were flying everywhere, bouncing off each other like balls in a pinball machine. The whole asteroid field had become a deadly storm of moving stone and metal. The remaining alien ships tried to fly out of the asteroid field, but there was nowhere safe to go. Debris was flying in all directions. Every time they dodged one rock, they flew into the path of another one. Jake's ship danced through the chaos like it was flying through a gentle breeze. He knew where every piece of debris was going because he had started most of it moving. His mining experience told him exactly where to fly to stay safe. The aliens did not have this knowledge. They were flying blind, trying to guess which way the rocks would move. Most of them guessed wrong. Jake watched his scanner as more red dots disappeared. 20 alien ships were gone, then 30, then 40. The chain reaction he had started was destroying the enemy fleet faster than he had ever imagined possible. War Prime. Cusk-9 screamed more orders at his remaining ships, but many of them could not hear him anymore. The flying debris had damaged their communication systems. The alien fleet was not just scattered now, it was completely broken. Some alien ships were trying to escape by flying straight up, away from the asteroid field. Others were trying to hide behind the bigger rocks. A few were still trying to attack Jake, but they could barely see his ship through all the flying debris. Jake had turned the aliens' greatest advantage against them. They had brought 100 ships to overwhelm him with numbers. But in the tight space of the asteroid field, those numbers became a weakness. There were too many ships trying to occupy the same space, and not enough room for them all to move safely. Jake fired his 9th shot at another asteroid, sending more debris toward a group of alien ships that were trying to regroup. The rocks hit their target perfectly, scattering the aliens once again. Only 25 enemy ships were left now, and they were spread out across the asteroid field like lost children. Their perfect military formation was gone. Their overwhelming numbers were gone. All they had left was fear. The 25 remaining alien ships were scattered across the asteroid field like broken toys. Some were hiding behind rocks. Others were trying to fly away. A few were still shooting at Jake, but their aim was wild and desperate. Jake looked at his fuel gauge and his weapon systems. He had used 9 of his 12 missiles. His pulse cannons were getting hot from all the shooting. His ship's computer was warning him that his engines needed to cool down soon. But Jake was not done yet. He could see on his scanner that some of the alien ships were trying to group together again. If they managed to form up, they might still be dangerous. Jake needed to finish this fight quickly. War Prime Keskeet 9 was in his command ship, trying to contact his scattered fleet. His voice came through Jake's radio, speaking in broken human language. "Human ship, you fight like coward. You hide behind rocks like scared animal. Face me in open space, ship to ship, like real warrior." Jake almost laughed. The alien commander still did not understand what had happened. He thought Jake was being sneaky or cowardly. He did not realize that Jake had just outfought 100 ships using nothing but physics and smart thinking. "Bugface," Jake said into his radio. "I don't fight for honor. I fight to protect people. Your ships were going to hurt innocent families. Now your ships are space junk," the alien commander screamed in anger. Jake could hear him clicking and hissing in his own language. Then the big command ship started moving toward Jake's position, its weapons charging up for a final attack. Jake watched the command ship approach. It was twice the size of his own ship and had 4 times as many weapons. In a straight fight, Jake would lose badly. But Jake was not planning a straight fight. While the command ship flew toward him, Jake used his remaining missiles to hit 3 more asteroids. But this time, Jake was not trying to create debris. He was trying to move the rocks into specific positions. The first missile hit a round asteroid and sent it rolling toward the left side of the command ship's path. The second missile hit a long, thin rock and made it spin like a stick. The third missile struck a cluster of small rocks and scattered them like seeds. War Prime Kesk-9 saw the explosions and laughed. He thought the human was wasting his last weapons on useless rocks. The alien commander did not notice that the asteroids were now moving into new positions around him. Jake's ship flew straight toward the command ship, as if he was going to attack head-on. The alien commander was happy to see this. Finally, the cowardly human would fight like a proper warrior. Both ships fired their weapons at the same time. Green alien energy beams and blue human pulse cannon shots filled the space between them. Jake's shots hit the command ship's shields and made them glow bright white. The alien's shots barely missed Jake's ship as he twisted and rolled to avoid them. But Jake was not really trying to win this weapons fight. He was using it as a distraction. While the alien commander focused on aiming his guns, Jake was flying toward one of the asteroids he had just moved with his missiles. At the last second, Jake's ship dove below the asteroid and disappeared from the alien commander's view. War Prime Kesk-9 lost sight of his target and stopped firing. He slowed his ship down, looking around for the human. That was exactly what Jake wanted him to do. Jake's ship came around the other side of the asteroid, flying fast and low. But he was not attacking the command ship directly. Instead, he fired his pulse cannons at the asteroid that was now floating right above the alien commander. The rock exploded and sent heavy chunks of stone and metal raining down on the command ship. The alien's shields flashed and sparked as the debris hit them. One big piece of rock struck the command ship's main weapon and broke it completely. War Prime Kesk-9 spun his ship around, trying to find Jake again. But Jake was already gone, flying toward the next asteroid in his plan. The alien commander followed, firing his remaining weapons wildly. His shots hit several asteroids and sent more debris flying around the area. But Jake was ready for this. He had planned for the alien to shoot at the rocks. Jake flew his ship in a wide circle around the command ship, always staying behind cover. Every few seconds, he would pop out from behind an asteroid and fire at another rock, sending it flying toward the alien ship. The alien commander was getting more and more frustrated. He was bigger and stronger than Jake's ship, but he could not hit his target. Jake was like a mosquito buzzing around a bear, always moving, always just out of reach. War Prime Kesk-9 decided to try a different approach. He stopped chasing Jake and instead flew toward the civilian transport ship. If he could not catch the human fighter, he would destroy the defenseless transport and force Jake to come to him. Jake saw the command ship changing direction and knew what the alien was planning. The transport ship was still hidden behind the potato-shaped asteroid where Jake had told it to go, but it would not be hidden for long. Jake pushed his engines harder than he had all day. His ship shot forward like an arrow, racing to get between the command ship and the civilian transport. He had to get there first, or 53 innocent people would die. The two ships reached the asteroid at almost the same time. War Prime Kesk-9 came around one side while Jake came around the other. They were flying straight toward each other at full speed. But Jake had one more trick to play. Earlier in the battle, Jake had moved several asteroids into new positions around this area. One of those asteroids was a big one, floating in space about half a mile away. Jake had been saving it for this moment. As the two ships flew toward each other, Jake fired his last missile at the distant asteroid. The missile hit the rock and exploded, but not on the surface. Jake had aimed for a crack in the rock that he had noticed earlier. The explosion went off inside the asteroid like a bomb going off inside a building. The whole rock blew apart from the inside, sending huge chunks flying in all directions. One of those chunks was as big as a house, and it was flying straight toward the space between Jake and the alien commander. War Prime Kesk-9 saw the flying rock and tried to change direction, but he was going too fast. His ship clipped the edge of the asteroid chunk and started spinning out of control. Jake flew his ship under the tumbling rock and came up behind the spinning command ship. The alien vessel was damaged and could not steer properly. Its weapons were pointing in the wrong direction. Jake had a clear shot at the command ship's engine. He fired both of his pulse cannons at the same time. The blue energy beams punched through the alien ship's rear armor and hit the reactor core. The command ship exploded in a bright flash of light. War Prime Kesk-9 and his dreams of victory were gone in an instant. Jake flew through the explosion, debris, and looked around the asteroid field. His scanner showed no more red dots, no more enemy ships. The battle was over. Jake opened his radio to the emergency frequency. New Dawn, this is Commander Harrison. The area is secure. Are you and your passengers okay? Captain Collins' voice came back immediately, full of relief and amazement. Commander, we're all fine. But what happened out there? It looked like the whole asteroid field exploded. Jake looked at the floating debris around him. Pieces of alien ships were scattered among the rocks like broken glass. In less than 5 minutes, he had destroyed 100 enemy vessels using nothing but clever thinking and good aim. Just some pest control, Captain Collins, Jake said. Nothing to worry about anymore. Jake Harrison floated in the quiet darkness of space, looking at the wreckage around him. Pieces of alien ships drifted slowly between the asteroids like metal snow. His scanner showed nothing moving except rocks and debris. The battle was truly over. His hands were shaking a little as he turned off his weapon systems. The fight had lasted only 4 minutes and 32 seconds, but it felt like hours. Jake had never been in a battle like this before. No human had ever fought so many enemy ships alone and won. Jake's radio crackled to life. It was Captain Knox from Command Station 7. Jake. Jake, are you there? What's your status? I'm here, Knox, Jake said, his voice tired but steady. All enemy ships destroyed. The civilian transport is safe. There was a long silence on the radio. Then Knox spoke again and her voice sounded strange. Jake, did you just say all enemy ships destroyed? Our sensors showed 100 Zephyrian fighters. That's right, 100 ships. They're all gone, now. Another long silence. Jake could imagine Knox staring at her scanner screen, trying to believe what she was seeing. How? Knox finally asked. Jake looked around at the asteroid field. Many of the rocks had been moved from their original positions. Some had been broken into smaller pieces. The whole area looked different than it had an hour ago. I used the rocks, Jake said simply. Turned the whole asteroid field into a weapon. Jake opened a channel to the civilian transport. New Dawn, this is Harrison. Can you get your engines working now? We're trying, Commander, Captain Collins answered. Give us a few minutes. Jake flew his ship closer to the big transport. Up close, he could see it was an old cargo ship that had been converted to carry passengers. It was not fancy, but it was built strong. These were the kind of ships that carried families to new colonies, looking for better lives. Through the transport's windows, Jake could see faces looking out at him, men, women, and children who had thought they were going to die. Now they were safe, and they knew Jake was the reason why. A small girl pressed her face against one of the windows and waved at Jake's ship. Jake waved back, even though he knew she could not see him through his ship's armor. Commander Harrison, Captain Collins called on the radio. Our engines are working again. We can move now. Good, Jake said. Follow me. I'll escort you out of the asteroid field. The two ships flew slowly through the floating debris. Jake led the way, using his scanner to find the safest path between the rocks. Behind him, the big transport followed carefully. As they flew, Jake's radio came alive with voices from other ships. Word of the battle was spreading fast through the human fleet. This is Captain Brown of the Starfire. Did Harrison really fight 100 aliens by himself? This is Commander Lee of the Frontier. We're seeing the debris field on our long-range scanners. It's huge. This is Admiral Martinez from Fleet Command. Harrison, report to my office as soon as you return to base. Jake turned down the volume on his radio. He did not want to talk to a bunch of officers right now. He just wanted to get the civilians to safety and go home to his wife. It took 30 minutes to guide the transport out of the asteroid field. When they reached open space, Captain Collins called Jake on a private channel. Commander, I need to thank you. You saved 53 lives today. 53 people who will go home to their families because of what you did. You don't need to thank me, Captain, Jake said. It's my job. No, sir. Your job was to scout this area and report back. You could have run away when you saw those alien ships. Nobody would have blamed you, but you stayed and fought. That wasn't your job. That was your choice. Jake thought about this. Collins was right. Jake could have escaped easily in his fast scout ship. He could have called for help and waited for other ships to arrive. But by then, the civilians would have been captured or killed. My wife always says I'm too stubborn for my own good, Jake said. Captain Collins laughed. Well, Commander, today your stubbornness saved a lot of lives. Jake escorted the transport for another hour until they met up with a patrol of human warships. The civilians would be safe now. Jake turned his ship around and headed back toward Command Station 7. During the long flight home, Jake had time to think about what had happened. He had destroyed an entire alien fleet using nothing but rocks and smart thinking. He had proved that humans could win against impossible odds if they used their brains instead of just their weapons. But Jake also knew he had been lucky. If the battle had happened in open space away from the asteroids, he would have died in the first minute. If the aliens had been smarter about fighting in the asteroid field, they might have won. If Jake had made even one small mistake, everyone would be dead. Jake thought about War Prime Kezigat 9, the alien commander. The bug-faced alien had been a good soldier, trained in proper military tactics, but he had never learned to think outside the rules. When his careful plans failed, he did not know what to do next. That was the difference between humans and aliens, Jake realized. Aliens followed patterns and rules. They did what they were taught to do. But humans were different. When the rules did not work, humans made up new rules. When the plan failed, humans made a new plan. 3 hours later, Jake's ship docked at Command Station 7. Captain Knox was waiting for him in the landing bay along with about 50 other people. Officers, mechanics, and regular crew members had all come to see the pilot who had fought 100 aliens and won. Jake climbed out of his ship and was surprised when everyone started clapping. He was not used to being the center of attention. He was just a scout pilot who had done his job. Jake, Captain Knox said, walking up to him with a big smile. I've been in the space fleet for 20 years and I've never seen anything like what you did today. I just used what I learned in the asteroid mines, Jake said. And I got lucky. Lucky? Knox laughed. Jake, luck is when you find a $20 bill on the street. What you did today was pure skill and courage. Over the next few days, the story of Jake's battle spread throughout human space. News reporters wanted to interview him. Military officers wanted to study his tactics. Scientists wanted to understand how he had calculated the asteroid movements. Jake answered their questions as best he could, but he always felt uncomfortable with all the attention. He was not a hero in his own mind. He was just a man who had done what needed to be done. The Zephyrian government heard about the battle too. They sent a message to Human Space Command, asking for details about the new human superweapon that had destroyed their fleet. The human admirals sent back a simple message. No superweapon was used. One human pilot defeated your fleet using standard equipment and asteroid mining techniques. The aliens did not believe this at first. They thought the humans were lying about some secret new technology, but when they studied the debris field and talked to the few Zephyrian survivors who had escaped, they learned the truth. One human, using nothing but cleverness and determination, had turned their overwhelming advantage into a crushing defeat. After that, the Zephyrian military issued new orders to all their ships: avoid combat with human vessels in asteroid fields. The risk was too great. 3 weeks after the battle, Jake finally got to go home to Luna Colony. His wife Lisa met him at the HFY spaceport, tears in her eyes. I heard what you did, she said, hugging him tight. I'm so proud of you. I just did my job, Jake said. No, Lisa said, looking into his eyes. You did something amazing. You showed the whole galaxy what humans are capable of when we fight for something we believe in. Jake looked around the spaceport and saw other families reuniting, soldiers coming home from missions, colonists heading out to new worlds, children playing while their parents talked. This was what he had fought for. Not for glory or fame, but for the simple right of people to live their lives in peace. The Battle of Kepler 442 became famous throughout human space. Military academies taught courses about Jake's tactics. Children played games pretending to be the pilot who fought 100 aliens with rocks. But for Jake Harrison, the real victory was much simpler. He had kept his promise to protect innocent people. He had come home to his wife. And somewhere in space, 53 people were living their lives because one human had refused to give up when the odds seemed impossible. That was what being human really meant.